So what are we looking at today? Today we're looking at a WW Grinder Inc. chipper shredder, chipper grinder I guess, depending on where you live in the world, what you want to call it. It's a model number 5-14-4, G as in George, C as in Charles. Serial number 80, M as in Michael 9. Whatever that means, I don't know. There's not a lot of information on these guys on the interweb. I've been looking for a while to get a chipper shredder, portable something-ish, because, you know, those eucalyptus trees make an absolute mess out of my yard. There's 2 times a year that I've got to do major cleanup, and there's a lot of leaves, a lot of branches. They drop a lot of bark. They just make a mess of everything. And I'd like to be able to use them in my plant beds, the chip, the mulch. Anyway, but the price had to be right? I've been on a soft search for a little portable chipper shredder for, I don't know, a while. Every now and then I'll look it up on the old Craigslist to see what's around me that's close by, and I found this one. I actually found this one in early December. Well, there's a story behind it. But let's get this unloaded. Let's get this in the backyard. We'll get a closer look at it, and while we're looking closer at it, I'll give you the story of how I came to have this early 70s chipper grinder in the back of the almighty Dodge truck.
So the way I look for stuff on Craigslist when I have something in my head that I want, and this is a want, not a need. I've done just fine cleaning up after these dirty eucalyptus trees, or doing the yard work at my mom's house with all her trees and branches and rose bushes and stuff without one of these. But it would be easier to be able to reduce the volume by grinding it up and then scooping it into the bin, so I can get the bins that the garbage company picks up, so I can get everything out in 1 week, as opposed to having to sometimes take 3 weeks, just because there's a lot of airspace and rose bushes when you're just chopping them up and trying to jump up and down on them in a bin. But this one here, when I found on Craigslist, had already been listed for 11 days or so. You'll see that front wheel is frozen now. When I first dragged this out of the woods, all 3 wheels were stuck. The wet leaves, the duff layer of that sycamore tree this was parked under, was over the top of the wheels. We got 3 out of the 4 wheels spinning. That 4th one was really stubborn. The problem is when you drag it, it tries to steer itself. Okay, that little trolley, whoopsie, just like that. So I'm going to let you guys listen to what happens when I try to drive this down those ramps, because this thing weighs a few hundred pounds.
That's heavy.
Yeah, that's awesome. This thing's, that front stuck wheel caught one of the ramps, it steered it, and it drove itself right off the ramps midway, and it tumbled almost completely upside down. Yeah, I guess it'd be funny if you were looking at it from a neighbor's window. Hopefully I didn't get on anybody's security camera, and I won't end up on some sort of YouTube video, but I digress. So I see this thing listed. It's already been on Craigslist for about 11 days. Shoot the guy a quick email. He's like, yep, still here. A couple people have looked at it, but they haven't had the backbone or the vehicle to haul it out of here. He says, but the problem is I'm doing this huge paver job around my house, and the machine's buried behind stuff and things that I had to move out of the way for this paving people. And I said, okay, well, I'm still interested. Keep me in mind. When you get that job done, let me know, and I'd like to come down and take a look. This guy had it listed about 20, I think it was 21 miles south of where I work every day. So I thought, well, I'll just bring the big Dodge to work one day, go an extra 20 miles past, pick it up, and then, it's not so bad. 42 miles or 43 miles, whatever it was, round trip out of my way to get this thing is totally worth it. So that was December 3rd, 4th, 5th, something like that, 2019. Yeah, I forget what year we're in, 2019. So then I wait a couple weeks, and I send the guy a message. I hadn't heard from him, so I'm like, hey, just checking in on your paving job, just seeing if this thing's still around. He's like, oh yeah, they've just wrapped up yesterday. I was gonna get an email sent out to you. And this was on a Tuesday. He goes, when do you want to come out? I said, I can come out Friday and take a look at it. He says, fantastic, great, here's my address. So I go there and I see this thing, and it's been supposedly been parked for 7 or 8 years, which I believe. The duff layer, it was underneath a sycamore tree, and the layer of wet soggy, moldy leaves were over the top. You can see how dirty the wheels are. They were over the top of the wheels, and all 4 wheels were stuck. And it was buried behind a bunch of firewood, and he had these drums that he uses for planting. The guy was an avid gardener. So I looked at it, and I was like, oh man, this is it's going to take a while. I liked it right away once I started knocking some leaves off of it. And he says, you can go ahead and take all that firewood and throw it on the ground. He goes, I'm just too old. He goes, I don't burn firewood anymore. I don't need this chipper anymore. I think the guy was, I'd have to say he was in his late 70s, mid to late 70s. And he says, just take all that firewood, we'll just throw it onto the pavers. My neighbor's coming tomorrow, Saturday, and he's going to take it all away because he still burns. And I said, look, it doesn't make sense for me to get hands on the firewood, throw it on the ground, so you guys have to pick it up, bend over, pick it up, and bring it out to the guy's car. I go, do you have any drums or barrels for me to put it in? He goes, yeah, I got all these garbage cans. So I said, bring me the cans, empty cans, and I'll fill all the firewood in there, and then you can just hand truck it out to the sidewalk. So I did that. He gave me, it took 4 32-gallon garbage cans. I filled them up, and I put them over along the side of his property line, and cleared a path, got this thing out onto the pavers, and took a look at it, and all the wheels were stuck. And the guy was trying to help me take it out to the sidewalk, and I'm like, hold on. Let me take a look at this thing. And before I waste anybody's time, let me make sure this is a viable project for me and something that I want to take on. And I was pretty sure in my head I did, but I really did want to take a look closer to make sure there was nothing terminal on this. So he goes, hold on, okay, let me go get some PB Blaster. I'll see if I can get these wheels to roll. So he was spraying down the wheels, messing with them. And by the time he got 3 of the wheels freed up, I felt pretty comfortable in yeah, I want this. Now this thing, the engine had 0 compression on it, but I wasn't that worried because honestly, initially I was thinking I was going to adapt this to work with the PTO on those Gilson hydrostatic tractors. But then that was my original thing. But then after a couple days of thinking about it, I thought, boy, I don't want to have to haul the tractor around just to go over to my mom's house to trim her trees or prune her rose bushes and just to grind that stuff up. So I was determined to figure out why that Briggs was it was free, but it had no compression. Why it wasn't showing any compression. So I gave up on trying to get the wheel free there on the sidewalk, and I dragged it into the backyard. And you'll watch me fight this thing for a while. But so the guy gets 3 of them free. He goes, well, what do you think? And I said, I go, this looks like this is a pretty decent project. There's no terminal cancer. It's 100% complete and unmolested, not banged up except for what I did when I dropped it off the back of my truck, which hadn't been done yet. So we're not anyway. So I said, look, I go, what'd you have it listed again for, and what are you looking to get for it? He goes, well, I had it listed for $125 or best offer. He goes, but as far as I'm concerned, it's yours. And then he starts dragging it out. He starts like dragging it again down the side of his house. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I go, what do you want to get for? What are you looking to get for this thing? He says, no. He goes, you don't understand. He goes, as far as I'm concerned, it's yours. He goes, you came out here. You've got the truck to haul it out of here. He says, you went through the trouble of stacking my firewood for me and getting this thing off behind the tree. He goes, if you want it, it's yours. It's free. Take it. And that's my kind of price, right? So I'm like, sweet. Like, okay, then don't worry about that last frozen wheel. I'll just pick it up by the handle, just lift it up, and because I don't want to leave black rubber marks on his brand new pavers. And it was a good solid 100 feet from where this thing was parked to where my truck was parked. Threw it in the back of the truck and talked with the guy for another 20 minutes. He was really a decent dude. He into gardening and this, that, and the other thing. And we had some real nice conversation, but I got it for free. Excuse me, which is glorious because that just puts me so far ahead of the game with everything. And you're going to have to wait for the next video to see if this thing will run, to see anything about it. But it's my game plan now to do to this like I did to the rotohoe. I'm going to use it for this winter, getting the trees trimmed up, everything pruned that needs to be pruned. And then in probably March or so, I'm going to break this thing completely down and paint it like I did the rotohoe. I'm not planning on selling it. I'm not planning on adapting this to work on the front of the PTO feature of the front of those Gilson tractors. But it's a great machine, probably from the early 70s. I think this company made grinders for the 60s, 70s, and the very early 80s. This one appears to be from the early 70s. Not the original engine, 3.5 horse original. This one's a 5 horse. We'll see how we go. All right. Listen, I appreciate you guys watching. Gotta go, gotta run. See ya!